Here's something that will blow your mind. Research shows that 88% of millionaires lose their wealth within 3 generations, but there's a small group of families who have maintained their wealth for over 500 years. What's their secret? Their families have unconsciously followed principles taught by a man who lived 2,000 years ago. A man most people have never heard of. A man who went from being literally owned by another human being to becoming one of history's wealthiest minds. Not wealthy in gold or silver, but wealthy in something far more valuable. The kind of wealth that can't be taken away by market crashes, recessions, or even slavery. His name was Epictetus, and what he discovered about the relationship between your mind and your money will change everything you think you know about building wealth. This isn't just another philosophy lecture. This is about the most practical financial wisdom ever discovered, hidden in plain sight for over 2 millennia. If you want your family's story to be different and finally join the 12%, this is the video that could change everything for you. And the best part, it has nothing to do with luck, privilege, or being born into money. This video is different. It's deeper. We're not just talking about money strategies or investment tips. We're talking about the psychological foundation that determines whether you'll build wealth that lasts generations or join the 88% who lose everything within a few decades. I know because I've seen it firsthand. Brilliant people with perfect financial plans lose everything because they lacked the one thing Epictetus mastered better than anyone else. And I've seen ordinary people with average incomes build extraordinary, lasting wealth because they understood what this forgotten philosopher knew about the human mind. The real problem isn't that people don't know how to make money. The real problem is that most people's relationship with money is completely broken. They're controlled by their emotions, driven by their fears, manipulated by forces they don't even recognize. They're financially enslaved, even when they think they're free. But Epictetus knew something different, something that gave him a kind of freedom that even the richest Romans of his time envied. And once you understand what he understood, you'll never look at wealth the same way again. Let's start with the mistake that keeps 97% of people financially trapped, and it's probably affecting you right now. Most people base their financial security on things completely outside their control: the stock market, the economy, their job, their boss's mood, government policies, interest rates. They're essentially giving away their power to external forces, then wondering why they feel anxious about money constantly. Epictetus called this living as a slave to externals. And he should know, he literally was a slave. But here's the paradox that changes everything. Even as a physical slave, Epictetus understood he could be mentally free. Meanwhile, his wealthy Roman masters were mental slaves to their possessions, their status, their fear of losing what they had. Think about it. How many people do you know who are financially successful but still controlled by money? They have wealth, but they don't have true freedom. They're rich, but not mentally free. Here's a perfect example. During any market volatility, millions of investors with solid portfolios suddenly panic because their external circumstances changed. But the people who understand Epictetus's principle focus on what they can control: their research, their strategy, their emotional responses. Guess which group makes not just better decisions in a crisis, but keeps wealth for generations? The Stoic approach to financial resilience starts with a simple question: what aspects of my financial life are actually within my control? Here's where Epictetus gets truly revolutionary. He didn't just say, focus on what you can control. He redefined what control actually means. Most people think they can control their income, their investment returns, their career success. Epictetus would laugh. You can influence these, sure, but control? Absolutely not. So what can you actually control? Only 3 things: your judgments, your decisions, and your responses. That's it. Everything else is outside your sphere of control. This isn't limiting, it's liberating. When you focus on what you can control, you become powerful in ways most people never experience. Your judgments. Instead of judging market volatility as bad, you can see it as information or opportunity. Your decisions. You can't control if investments go up or down, but you control how you research, how much risk you take, and when you act. Your responses. You can't control economic recessions, but you control whether you panic or stay calm, see crisis as threat or opportunity. Mind-blowing insight. When you stop wasting energy trying to control the uncontrollable, you free up massive focus for what actually matters. This is where Epictetus reveals the secret even modern psychology is only beginning to understand. True wealth isn't about having more money. It's about needing less external validation for your sense of security. Epictetus taught, the richest person isn't the one who has the most, but the one who needs the least. Not because you should live in poverty, but because when you're not controlled by your needs, you make better financial decisions. When you desperately need something, you're in a weak negotiating position. When you're attached to a specific outcome, you miss other opportunities. When you're driven by fear of not having enough, you make impulsive choices. But when you have what Epictetus called detached engagement, you participate fully in building wealth without being controlled by the process. Here's proof this works. Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett's longtime partner, often said his best investment decisions came when he wasn't emotionally attached to outcomes. He could think clearly about opportunities because he wasn't controlled by fear or greed. Emotional control in finances isn't about suppressing feelings. It's about not letting your feelings make your decisions. When you're not desperate for money, you can take calculated risks that desperate people can't take. When you're not attached to your current situation, you can see opportunities that attached people miss. When you're not controlled by fear, you can make rational long-term decisions that fearful people avoid. Here's where ancient wisdom meets modern financial planning. Epictetus developed what we can call the 3 circles system. Circle 1, things you control completely. Circle 2, things you influence but don't control. Circle 3, things completely outside your influence. Most people spend 80% of their energy worrying about Circle 3. Epictetus flipped it. 80% of your focus should be on Circle 1, 20% on Circle 2, 0 on Circle 3. Circle 1, financial education, spending habits, saving rate, investment research, skill development, work ethic, decision-making process. These are your weapons. Circle 2, income level, investment returns, business success, career advancement, market opportunities. Circle 3, economic recessions, market crashes, interest rates, inflation, government policies, global events. When you focus 80% on what you can truly control, your influence over Circle 2 increases, and you waste less energy on things you can't change. You become more valuable in the job market because you're constantly developing skills. You make better investment decisions because you're not driven by fear. You build stronger financial habits because you're not distracted by external noise. This is the insight that made Epictetus truly wealthy, even as a former slave. Real financial freedom isn't about having enough money to buy whatever you want. Real freedom is about having enough wisdom to want only what serves your true well-being. Most people are trapped in the hedonic treadmill. They think more money equals more happiness, but when they get it, they adapt and need even more to feel satisfied. It's an endless cycle. Epictetus saw through this. Contentment comes from appreciating what you have, not from acquiring what you don't. It's not about settling for less. It's about having a clear vision of enough, so you can make rational decisions about when to take risks and when to be satisfied. People who are content with what they have are often the most successful at building wealth. They're not making desperate decisions. They're making calm, rational, long-term choices from a position of inner strength. Studies show that people who practice gratitude and contentment consistently save more money, make better investment decisions, and report higher levels of financial satisfaction at every income level. This isn't coincidence. This is Epictetus's wisdom proven by modern behavioral science. When you achieve this kind of mental freedom, money becomes a tool instead of a master. Some uncomfortable questions. How much of your financial stress comes from trying to control things outside your control? How much mental energy are you wasting worrying about market movements, economic policies, other people's decisions, instead of focusing on your own? Are you operating from strength and clarity or driven by fear, desperation, attachment to outcomes? The truth Epictetus discovered 2,000 years ago. Your financial future isn't determined by external circumstances. It's determined by your internal responses to external circumstances. The economy will crash again. Markets will be volatile. Unexpected expenses will happen. But your response is always within your control, and your response determines whether you become stronger or weaker, richer or poorer, freer or more enslaved. Epictetus went from being owned by another human being to being consulted by emperors. Not because his circumstances were perfect, but because he mastered the one thing no one could take away, his mind. You have access to the same wisdom. The question is, will you use it? Financial freedom isn't about having more money, it's about having more control over yourself. Have you ever noticed how your emotional state affects your financial decisions? Have you caught yourself trying to control things outside your influence? What would change if you focused 80% of your energy on what you can completely control? Share your thoughts in the comments. Your story might help someone else break free. If this gave you real value, hit like and subscribe to keep feeding your millionaire brain with wisdom that transforms instead of just entertains. Remember, the philosophers who built civilizations have more to teach us about money than most modern financial experts. Stay curious, stay wise, and I'll see you in the next video.